Hello, my dear children. Greetings for the day. Children, will continue in today's class with what we started last time. In the last class, we started with Gauss theorem and we applied Gauss theorem in situation 1. And all these situations ones are related with determination of flux. That was type 1 application. And today we will study type 2 applications of the Gauss theorem. In type 2 applications of the Gauss theorem, we find out electric field intensity due to various type of charge distributions. So far we know only electric field intensity due to point charge. Well, in type 2 applications we will study electric field intensity due to point charge, electric field intensity due to line charge, electric field intensity due to surface charge, electric field intensity due to volume charge, and electric field intensity due to charge spherical conducting shell. So there are various types of charge distributions. We will find out the expression for electric field intensity in type 2 applications. Well children, in type 2 applications, when we find out electric field intensity, we combine the definition of electric flux with Gauss theorem. Well, according to definition of electric flux, flux passing through any surface S is surface integral of E dot dA. This is electric flux passing through any surface. Well, as per Gauss theorem, electric flux passing through any closed surface is always equal to the ratio of net charge enclosed within the surface to permittivity of free space. So, this is definition of flux, flux passing through a surface S, and if that surface S happens to be closed surface, then this electric flux is the ratio of charge enclosed to permittivity of free space. So we combine the definition of electric flux with Gauss theorem and use it in type 2 applications. Well, the very first application is E due to point charge, and the next application which we would be studying would be E due to line charge, that is linear charge distribution. Children, in every type 2 applications, what do we do? Well, at whichever point, this is in general common to all derivations which we are going to work out. For every application, at whichever point we wish to find out electric field intensity due to any charge distribution, we first of all make a closed surface passing through that point. That closed surface is called as Gaussian surface. Well, how is that closed surface? That depends upon the nature of charge distribution. And the surface is decided all over which the surface is decided so that all over the surface we are able to find out surface integration of E dot dA. Well, what are these surfaces? We'll know as we work out the derivations of E. Well, E due to point charge. This is point charge Q at a distance R from it. We want to find out electric field intensity. So what do? We make a closed surface passing through this point, and that closed surface is Gaussian surface, and that is sphere. At a distance R, we wanted to find out electric field intensity, so we draw a sphere of radius R. So this sphere is Gaussian surface. Why do we take sphere? Because all over this surface we are able to find out surface integral of E dot dA. Well, we divide this surface into very small elemental areas of dA each. Well, this is one arbitrary dA. Electric field intensity at this particular area, because of this point charge Q, would always be away from the point charge. We know that. And as far as area, direction of this area dA is concerned, it is always radially outward. It is normal to the surface, so it is radially outward. So here the angle between E and dA is 0. Not only here, anywhere we take a very small elemental area all over surface of a sphere. Everywhere the angle between dA and electric field intensity would be what? 0. So everywhere the angle between E and dA would be what? 0. So E dot dA surface integral is equal to net charge enclosed upon permittivity of free space. E dA is E dA cos 0, and what is net charge enclosed? Charge enclosed in the Gaussian surface is Q. This is the value of charge enclosed. So Q upon epsilon naught. Well, cos 0 is 1. E, the value of electric field intensity, is same at each and every point at a distance r from point charge q. Therefore, E is constant. It comes out of sign of integration. We are left with integration of dA, and that is equal to Q upon epsilon naught. Well, integration of dA, if we add all dAs, integration of dA would give us the total surface area of the sphere, that is 4 pi r square. So for integration of dA, we write 4 pi r square. E into 4 pi r square is Q upon epsilon naught. That means E is equal to Q upon 4 pi epsilon naught r square. This is the expression of electric field intensity due to point charge. We knew this expression already, but we have found out this expression using Gauss theorem today. Children, we can also derive or prove Coulomb's law using Gauss theorem. Well, we know electric field intensity due to point charge Q at a distance r form, it is what? This. So when we deduce Coulomb's law, we have to work out all this derivation. Well, if these are two point charges Q and Q naught are distance apart, electric field intensity at a distance r from charge Q, we have already found out. Since this E is force acting over unit charge over plus 1 Coulomb charge, the force is E. Therefore, force over Q naught charge, which is kept here, force over Q naught charge here would be what? Q naught into E. If we substitute the value of E here, we get F is equal to Q naught upon 4 pi epsilon naught. This is what is Coulomb's law. Force is directly proportional to plot of charges, and it is inversely proportional to square of distance between the charges. Well, this electric field intensity, if plotted against R, the graph is going to be a rectangular hyperbola like this. Well, one more application of this derivation is what? Determination of electric potential. So what is electric potential due to point charge at a distance r from it? Well, again, we'll have to work out this whole derivation, and then we have to use the definition that electric potential is always equal to minus times integration of E dr. Why it is so? It is simply because electric field intensity is negative potential gradient minus dV by dr. That means dV is equal to minus E dr. We integrate both sides, we get V is equal to integration of E dr. Well, electric potential is work done in bringing unit positive test charge from infinity to given point in the field. That we know. So we integrate it from infinity to r. We substitute the value of E here. And we integrate it. And integration of dr upon r square is what? Minus 1 upon r. And when we solve it for the limit infinity to r, we get it as what? Minus 1 upon r. This minus will cancel out. We get the value of electric potential as V is equal to 1 upon 4 epsilon naught Q by r. Children, we have found out electric field intensity due to point charge, and see, from electric field intensity we are able to work out force and also electric potential. Likewise, we can work out these secondary derivations out of E. In all other cases, we would just be finding out E. But what about force over any charge? We can work out once we have found out E using this relation of force, and also we can find out electric potential using this relation once we have worked out E. See, in both the cases, E is used for finding out force and for finding out electric potential. In all other cases, we would just be finding out E, but you can work out these on your own as and when required in any exam. Well, the next application of the day is E due to line charge. What is line charge? We have already studied in detail. This is a linear charge distribution. It's a very long wire which carries charge Q. Its length is L. So linear charge density is lambda upon L. Well, at a distance r from it, we want to find out electric field intensity at this point P. So what do? As usual, we have to draw a Gaussian surface passing through this point, and the Gaussian surface here is in the form of a right circular cylinder. And whose radius is r. Why do we take right circular cylinder? Why not sphere? Again, the reason is very simple. We are supposed to find out E dot dA all over surface. The surface has to be set in such that we are able to find out surface integral of E dot dA all over surface. So this Gaussian surface, which is in the form of right circular cylinder, has three surfaces. One is top surface S1, the other one is the curved surface, and the third one is this bottom surface. These three surfaces altogether make the Gaussian surface S. As usual, surface integral of E dot dA is equal to ratio of net charge enclosed upon permittivity of free space. Well, since this closed surface consists of three different surfaces S1, S2, S3. Therefore, we break this limit of integration and find out E dot dA for surface S1. We find out E dot dA for surface S2. We find out E dot dA for surface S3. And that is all equal to net charge enclosed upon permittivity of free space. Well, the length of the cylinder is L, small l. Over unit length, the charge is lambda. Therefore, over length L, the charge is going to be what? Lambda L. So, what is charge enclosed? Charge enclosed is the charge over wire length L, wire of length L, which is right inside this Gaussian surface. So, small l is the length of the wire inside the Gaussian surface. Therefore, over this length, the charge is charge enclosed. Over unit length, charge is lambda. Over small length L, the charge is lambda L. So, this is charge enclosed. What is E dot dA for surface S1? For finding out E dot dA for surface S1, we take a very small surface here, dA, and direction of this A is always perpendicular to this plane, and the direction of electric field is what? We know electric field due to line charge is what? Radially symmetric. So electrical forces are along the plane, along the top plane. So angle between E and dA is what? 90 degree. So here the angle between E and dA is 90 degree. And we know that dot product of perpendicular vector is 0. Therefore, E dot dA is 0 for surface S1. For curved surface, if we take a very small area here, direction of this area is radially outward, yeah, and direction of electric field is of course radially outward, that we know already. So for curved surface, angle between E and dA is what? 0. Angle between E and dA is what? 0. E indication of dA cos 0. Cos 0 is 1. And for this surface S3, if we take a very small surface here, the direction of surface will be normal to the surface, and direction of electric field is radially symmetric, that we know already. Therefore, electrical forces will be parallel to this flat surface, and angle between these E and dA will be what? 90 degree. This is dA, and electric field is along the surface. Again, because of the fact that these two are perpendicular vectors, their dot product is 0. Integration of E dA cos 0 is going to be what? Integration of E dA. And what is cos 0 is 1. We can write here 1. So what is integration of dA? This integration of dA for all over surface, that is 2 pi r, and this is the surface, curved surface. This is going to be 2 pi r l. So integration of dA all over surface S2 is going to be 2 pi r l is equal to lambda l upon epsilon naught. We can see that L cancels out. What do you get here? Lambda upon 2 pi epsilon naught r. It can be written as 2 lambda upon 4 pi epsilon naught r. Well, we can see that E is inversely proportional to r. E due to point charge is inversely proportional to r square, but E due to line charge is inversely proportional to r. And if you plot a graph between E and r, well, it is again going to be a rectangular hyperbola as here. But what is the difference between the two? Electric potential versus R graph due to point charge is this graph A, which is more steep, and electric potential due to line charge graph is this rectangular hyperbola, which is less steep. So this variation is represented by graph B. Graph B is E due to line charge, and this graph A is E due to point charge. So with this we come to the end of today's class. We'll continue this topic in the next class. Until we meet again, thank you. God bless you all.